Are you sitting comfortably? Then I shall begin. Once upon a time, I moved from Bolton in Manchester with Mum and Dad and my two sisters, Mand and Juju, to Weymouth when I was 6. Dad had got a job as a customs officer at the then working ports of Portland and Weymouth. My first memory of that move was waiting on the beach while Dad went to get the keys, our new home on Roman Road. The bathroom was painted a green gloss paint. I was sent to St Augustine's Catholic Primary School along with my two sisters, and it's fair to say that from the moment I stepped over the threshold to that school, the nuns made it their mission to humiliate and intimidate me. Life at home in so many ways was an idyllic one. Under the carefree, spirited eye of Mum, we were allowed to spread our wings and find our own adventures. But there was always a fear lurking in the background for me in those early days. Monster nuns waiting to bite me. Finally, Mother recognised that something was terribly wrong, and being my champion, walked into the school one day, fought the beasts and slayed them dead. Metaphorically speaking, you understand. A couple of years later, and I'm not really sure how I managed to do this, but I passed my 11 plus and got a place at the Dorchester Grammar School for Girls. I never really enjoyed grammar school, or any kind of school really, but at least there weren't any scary nuns hanging around in the corridors. I made loads of friends. I was form captain, became the class clown, especially in Latin and maths, and bestowed upon myself the title of ink monitor. Life was on a pretty good roll. Being one of 3 girls, clumps of boys would turn up at our house and hang out on their chopper bikes in the front garden, donned in their parkas. Mandy, my younger sister, would sit on the swing, watching her 2 elder sisters practising their kissing techniques with various motley-looking hirsute boys. Most of our free time was spent mucking about on the beach, playing in the park, riding bikes, sitting on walls, chatting up the boys and caring about nothing in particular. It was an idyllic dream. Now, around the 3rd year of grammar school, a careers officer came to tell us what career they had in mind for us, given our subject choices and our results. In my private delusional reality, I had myself down to be a journalist. But I was given the blow that the only expectation they had of me was a dental nurse or a wren. I can only liken this news as to being sharply and unexpectedly slapped across the face. Luckily for me, however, a peripatetic English teacher called Miss Hawkins came to my rescue. She recognised that I had a skill for English, but declared I showed no aptitude for discipline or concentration, but promised me that if I agreed to act in a play, things might turn out in my favour. The play was Toad of Toad Hall, and she wanted me to play Toad. Toad? Really? Oh, honestly. Well, I managed 2 detentions before I cracked and agreed to do it. To be perfectly honest, I don't really remember anything about that show, as I was catatonic with fear. But at the end of the prize-giving ceremony that year, the headmistress announced that there was to be a special one-time award for an outstanding achievement. She held up a little silver cup, feeling a bit emotional, in front of 400 girls, because I so remember that moment, and announced to the whole school that it was for me. The little cup had my name on it, and the cheer was a loud one. I left grammar school in the 6th form to do my A-levels at the technical college. No school uniform and boys in the classes. Brilliant. Apart from studying my A-levels in history, English and sociology, I took drama and public speaking exams. I joined the Merchant Navy and got myself a job on the Sealing ferries, sailing out to Weymouth, sailing out from Weymouth to the Channel Islands and Cherbourg. Oh, the hours were gruelling. 24 hours on board ship, 24 off, with little and no sleep. But the pay was brilliant. I had never had so much money. I've never had so much money since then. I started out pouring teas in the cafe and worked my way up to deck stewardess. Not as glamorous as it sounds, as most of the time I was unplugging sinks full of sick with a wire coat hanger. From there, I went on to be the officer stewardess and became very adept at silver service in 4 scale seas. I wanted to go on and work on the QE2 and really very nearly did, but was persuaded by Pancho the purser to go to drama school, citing that it was much better for me to carry on with my education. He told me to audition for drama school, and if I didn't want to have a career in the theatre, I could always go back to sea. I did get into drama school and studied for 3 years at the Horniman Theatre School in Manchester. I never went back to sea. Immediately college was over, I went to London, where the streets, I was told, were paved with gold and opportunity. And for the next 15 years, I didn't stop working as an actress. I performed with companies that took award-winning theatre onto stages in parks, schools, community centres, festivals and theatres, nationally and internationally. I didn't sleep much through those years, I have to say. I lived on adrenaline, alcohol and applause. There was so much to do. If I wasn't performing, I was rehearsing a new play and learning the lines, or reading through a new script, or auditioning for a new role, or sometimes all of the above, all at the same time. On one occasion, and thank God it was only once, I was given a lead part, having spent 3 weeks learning the lines for another role, 48 hours before the show went live. I was told by the director to go home and come back 24 hours later and be off the book. I did manage to learn the lines, but I had no idea which scene followed which. I was woman-handled from scene to scene and across the stage by the stage manager and other actors whispering through the set where I was supposed to be next. My father died at the beginning of rehearsals for one show, and after the first night curtain came down, I drove from London to Weymouth, stayed up all night with my brother, read at the funeral, then drove back to London and was on stage for 7:30 the following day, playing to a full house. The show must go on, as they say, but at what cost, I say. After 15 years, I was knackered. I didn't know who I was. I was finding it almost impossible to own a life of my own. I was just a mishmash of all the characters that I had ever played on stage. And the lines between reality and fantasy were wearing dangerously thin, and I was done in. My sister, in the meantime, had had her daughter Taylor Rose and had moved from London to the seaside here in Lyme Regis. She was pregnant with her second child, Saul Augustine, and that's when I had my life-changing epiphany. I was going to go and live by the sea and go and be a day-to-day auntie. I wanted to be near the children, watch them grow up and be a part of their day-to-day lives. Not just my mummy in a birthday card or sending a Christmas present, an every day-to-day auntie. So, seemingly overnight, I decided to lead the life I had created for myself. I detonated it under the cover of darkness, having packed everything I could possibly fit alongside my 2 cats into my Mini, and as I watched the old life burn in the rearview mirror, I vowed to myself that I would never work for anybody else ever again. It was time to write a new script, play a new role. I put out very clearly that I had retired from acting, and sure enough, the phone eventually did stop ringing and I was no longer offered work in the theatre. Oh God, now what? I worked part-time in a wonderful shop called Love Grove, which sold work made by local artists. Realistically, I couldn't make ends meet just on the hours I was doing in the shop, so I decided to give an idea I'd had a few years before I left London a try. I was going to make a collection of jackets and jumpers using recycled knitwear. Having never sewn or made anything before, the idea was quite a preposterous one, but it just seemed to make the right creative sense to me. So I screwed my creative courage to the sticking place, went to a jumble sale with £20 to spend, brought a few jumpers, cardigans, sweatshirts, and over the next few weeks, I put a collection together. I took them down to Hannah Lovegrove's shop and asked her if she would sell them for me. Well, within a couple of weeks, she had sold the whole lot, and I had £100 in my back pocket. That was 22 years ago. And now I have a gorgeous studio shop in Mr. Pattimore's old butcher's shop here on Coombe Street in Lyme Regis. I'm so proud to be an independent maker, and I love what I do to earn myself a living to put food on the table. The business journey's been a little bit bumpy at times, believe me, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, as the old adage goes. And there will always be times in life when our mettle is tested. At least it felt that my moral and creative integrity remained intact. When I finally came through the gloom of loss, I took a long walk through India and had a really good heart-to-heart with myself. What was I going to do now? Write a book? Train as a Pilates teacher? Or go back to my knitwear business? Well, I decided it would be a churlish move not to give the knitwear another try. When I arrived home, I got a job at the Town Mill Bakery and put the word out that I needed a window. And it just so happened that when I was away, Hannah Lovegrove and her husband had bought Mr. Pattymore's. And when she heard word that I was looking for a window, she offered me this butcher's shop. Thank you, Hannah Lovegrove. You were twice my champion. Let me see now. That was 9 years ago. And here I am still making, still designing, still selling. I even performed in the community production, The Tempest of Lime, at the Marine Theatre, which was a sellout success, and won a National Outstanding Achievement Award. A little silver cup.